Good morning, everybody. So today is Wednesday, January 20th. I'm going to try to stay off camera as much as possible. I just wanted to say hi. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our video. We are on lesson 2 of module 3 today. Thank you for all the sweet messages and emails. I appreciate it. All right, so it's a fairly long lesson today, but most of it is just Miss Sabella reading the new book to us. Okay, so here we go.
Welcome back, powerful thinkers. I'm Sue Sabella, your Great Minds teacher. Let's see what we need for today. Today we'll need Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, handout 2A, the question cube, scissors, 3 small pieces of tape, your journal, and a pencil. If you don't have access to scissors or tape, no worries. I'll provide an alternative for the question cube. Pause here to gather what you need and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so I posted a copy of the question cube for you. If you have a printer at home and you want to print it out and make it, you can do that, but it is not required. You can use the question words without the cube.
Today, we'll be moving on to a new text in our module. But don't worry about Ruby Bridges. We'll be back to visit with her again later on in the module. Today, we'll be learning more about Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. As we begin a brand new text in this module, we remember how important it is to take time to notice and also to create wonder questions, questions that we're wondering about as we look closely at the illustrations and the words in this text. If you have a copy of this text, you can read this on your own to notice and wonder, or you can also follow along with me as I do it here. It is totally up to you. Let's get you set up for success. Please pause here to grab handout 2A, scissors and tape, and also set up a notice and wonder question chart in your journal. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so like I said, you do not have to have the question cube, okay? But in your journal, we are on page 100 today, guys. Page 100. And we're going to set up our notice and wonder chart. We're going to put the title of the book on the top. Okay, so we are on page 100. And you are going to write the title. It's really hard to see because I left my marker at school. I'm sorry. So you're going to write Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, and then notice and wonder on page 100 today. My mouse doesn't want to move. Okay. All right.
If you do not have a paper copy of the question cube, no worries. I can post the question words on the screen as we notice and wonder. If you do have a paper copy and you'll be making a question cube, let's take a look at the directions and follow the directions to create the cube. The first thing that I'd like you to do is cut out the shape below. I've outlined the edge of the shape in red. Be sure to just cut on the outside of the shape. It looks like a lowercase t when you're finished. Pause here to cut out the shape and just hit play when you're ready to continue with the directions. Now we're going to fold on the dotted lines. Watch the screen to see how I fold and tape the edges. As you tape the cube, hold it very gently, almost softly, so you're not crushing down the sides as you tape the edges. When it's all finished, we can see our question words: how, who, what, why, where, and when. Pause here to create your question cube. And remember, you can always go back on the timeline to watch the video for putting the cube together. Again, just hit play when you're ready to continue. Because you're such an independent learner now, I'm going to read this text all the way through from beginning to end. It'll be up to you to pause often to jot down what you're noticing and also your wonder questions. If you're using the Wonder Cube, you'll simply roll it, and the word that's on the top is the word that you'll use to start your wonder question. If you're using the cube, or if you're using the question words on the screen, I have a special challenge for you. As you're noticing and as you wonder, I encourage you to jot down at least 3 how questions and also 3 why questions. Remember, the how and why questions really push your thinking that much deeper. So be sure and accept my challenge today of generating 3 how and also 3 why questions. Ready? Here we go. I'm sure you saw the check mark in the corner and you know what that means. Your classroom teacher will take this opportunity to check your journal and look over what you're noticing and all of your wonder questions. So be sure to pause as often as you need to jot down everything that you're noticing and all those great wonder questions. Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington by Francis E. Ruffin, illustrated by Stephen Marchesi. August 28, 1963. It is a hot summer day in Washington, D.C. More than 250,000 people are pouring into the city. They have come by plane, by train, by car, and by bus. Some people have walked all the way to Washington from New York City. That's more than 230 miles. One man has roller skated from Chicago. It has taken him 11 days. By late morning, a crowd has gathered at one end of a long, narrow pool. Nearby is the Lincoln Memorial with its statue of Abraham Lincoln. Why are so many people here at this place on this day? It is because 100 years ago, President Lincoln helped to free the people who were slaves. It was during the Civil War. President Lincoln knew that slavery had to end. Now it is 1963. There has been no slavery for a long time. But are Black people and white people treated equally? No. And that is why people are in Washington today. They have come to protest. They will speak out against something they think is wrong. In the South and in some other states, there are laws to keep Black people and white people apart. Black people cannot eat in many restaurants or stay in many hotels. In movie theaters, they must enter by separate doors and sit way up in the balcony. On public buses, they have to take seats in the back. There are signs that say, "For whites only." Even water fountains say, "white" or "colored." Which of these fountains looks nicer to you? Black people and many white people wanted things to change. It is time for a change. It is past time for a change. In the crowd are some grandchildren and great-grandchildren of slaves. Many of these people have been part of protests before. There have been sit-ins in many cities. At sit-ins, Black people take seats in white-only restaurants or theaters, and they refuse to leave. Often, they are dragged out. Sometimes, they are put in jail. There have been protest marches in many southern cities and towns. People hold signs, they sing songs. But what if everyone got together in one place to protest? That is the idea of two Black leaders named A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin. They pick Washington, D.C. as the place. It is the nation's capital. It is where laws are made. So, on August 28th, 1963, at 11:30 a.m., the March on Washington begins. The crowd marches to the Lincoln Memorial. As they walk, the people sing, "We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday." Later, there are many speakers. They stand on the steps of the memorial in front of Lincoln's statue. Each person talks about freedom. The marchers sit on the grass and listen. They know that today, history is being made. By noon, the sun is very hot. Some people take off their shoes and cool their feet in the pool. Bag lunches are sold. Each one has a cheese sandwich, an apple, and a slice of pound cake, all for 50 cents. The high point of the day comes at 3 o'clock. The crowd grows quiet. A young man takes the stage. He looks at the crowd. There are people as far as he can see. The man's name is Martin Luther King Jr. He is a preacher and the son of a preacher. He has grown up in Georgia. He knows all about what it is like to be a Black person in the South. Dr. King is a man of peace, but he is also a fighter. He doesn't use his fists or weapons. He uses words. In the South, Dr. King has led many other protests. One was a march in Georgia. Another was a protest against a bus company in Alabama. He has been put in jail many times. There are threats against his life. Some people want him dead, but that does not stop him. Today in Washington, Dr. King speaks words of hope. His speech is about his dream for a better world. He says, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin." He hopes that people will see all children for who they are and for the things they do in their lives. It is his dream that one day little Black boys and Black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and girls. Dr. King speaks for 16 minutes and 20 seconds. His voice rises and falls. The crowd leans forward. They want to hear every word. 9 times Dr. King says, "I have a dream." When Dr. King finishes, there is silence. Then 250,000 people start to clap and to cheer. Some people are so moved by his words, they cry. People all around the world watch Martin Luther King Jr. on TV. So does President John F. Kennedy. By early evening, people start back to their cars, to the buses, and to the trains and planes. It is time to go home. The march has ended, but that is not the end of the story. One year later, a law is passed. It is called the Civil Rights Act of 1964. From now on, there cannot be restaurants for whites only. There cannot be separate seating for Black people and white people in any public place. People cannot be kept apart just because of their skin color. It does not change everything, but it is the beginning. And the power of words, the words of Dr. King and others, changes the law of the land. Pause here to make sure you have jotted down everything that you've noticed and also your wonder questions. And remember, I gave you a challenge. Make sure you have lots of how and why questions. And also remember, you can scroll back to listen again so you can add more to your journal if you like. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. Pause here to take a stretch break and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so I found some things that I noticed. I noticed that it said a man roller skated to DC from Chicago. And I noticed that it said Dr. King was put in jail a lot. And two of the things that I wondered were how are they going to protest in Washington? And why did he keep getting arrested? So those are some things that I noticed and wondered. And remember, you are going to take a picture of your notice and wonder chart and send it to me so I can see what you noticed and wondered.
We're going to take a closer look at a word on page 26 of Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. If you have your own copy, pause here to turn to page 26 and just hit play when you're ready to continue. Let's choral read or read this page together. Here we go. So, on August 28th, 1963, at 11:30 a.m., the March on Washington begins. The crowd marches to the Lincoln Memorial. Now I'd like you to look closely at the words on this page. Point to the word march. Now point to the word marches. What differences do you notice between the word march in the first paragraph and marches in the second paragraph? Pause to tell your learning partner, or you can tell Jackson, and just hit play when you're ready to continue. You probably noticed the word March has a capital letter. March is part of March on Washington. It's a special event, and that's why a capital letter is used at the beginning of March. Marches has ES on the end, and it is not capitalized. Now let's continue reading on page 27. And as we read this page together, keep this question in mind. What are the people doing? What does march mean? Ready? Let's read together. As they walk, the people sing, "We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome someday." March is an action word. What are the people doing? What clue do you have from the words on page 27 and also the photograph at the bottom of pages 26 and 27? Pause here to tell your learning partner or to tell Jackson. When march is an action, it means to walk with others in regular steps. When march is a noun, it is an event where people walk together in protest, like the special march on Washington. I want you to close your eyes as I read this sentence aloud. The people marched. What are you picturing? What are the people doing? The people are marching. Marched is an action word. It's a verb. If you like, you can pause here to act out the word marched. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. Read this sentence to yourself. The people went to a march. In this sentence, the word march is an event. The way march is used in this sentence makes it a noun because it is a thing, it is an event. The word marched in the first sentence is a verb. It's an action word. People are doing something. Words were very important to Dr. King, and words were also very important to Dr. King's listeners. Words are power. Be sure to use your words wisely, and be sure to use your words to help others. I will see you again soon, my friends.
Okay, so that was the end of our lesson for today. Remember, you are going to upload a picture of your page 100 for me to read your notices and your wonders, okay? And I uploaded the question cube and I uploaded a copy of the book for you to read, all right? So that is it for today. And the phonics video might be a little late today because I think I need to lay back down. All right, so I'll see you guys later. Bye.